What's up, everybody? Josh or Miho here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the new album from the band Cuff, entitled Forced Human Sacrifice to the New Gods of Earth. This is released on Gore House Productions. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be straight up, nasty, in your face, brutal death metal with heavy emphasis on slam breakdowns and some death grind elements thrown in there too. Yeah, this is a band that's been around since 2005 if I'm not mistaken, but since that time these guys have put out a lion's share of music. Full-length albums, demos, EPs, splits, compilation appearances, live stuff. These guys have kept active within the death metal underground for quite a good while now. Um, and over the last couple of years, this band has been taking a little bit more of a sci-fi approach when it comes to their music and lyrical content. Um, yeah, this latest full length is another example of that. I want to say this is their seventh full length album. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. It's 9 tracks, and it clocks in at around 30 minutes in length, 30 to 31 minutes in length. And I gotta tell you, this is some really, really interesting stuff. I mean, if you're a fan of brutal death metal, or if you're into stuff that has some really unique experimental kind of stuff, this is definitely an album to check out. I wouldn't say this is to everybody's taste, but if you were willing to give something like this a try, I definitely urge you to do so. The main thing that stands out to me about this album is the fact that this album is just basically very heavily guitar driven, and that's all you'll hear on this record is a guitar. There is no bass or anything like that. It's just one lead guitar. And for this style of music, I think it is just devastating. I mean, take the opening track, Hyperboreal Vibrations. Just the riffs that are used on that particular song are just heavy. I mean, these are the kind of riffs that you want to be involved in a mosh pit with. Just how heavy and punishing the tone is. It's just amazing. Just some really unique and interesting riffs going on here. I mean, to later tracks like Shattering the Lives of the Innocent, Reign of Torture, and Eradicated Existence. There's some really awesome riff work going on with those particular tracks. And the way that the riffs are executed and delivered throughout the record definitely make this an interesting listen. It definitely makes you want to headbang and slam in the pit, definitely. This has a lot of catchiness. That's another thing I want to say. The guitar has a lot of catchiness to it. It stays stuck in your head and it won't let up. And that's a great quality to have about this guitar playing. When it comes to the drums, it's pretty obvious that there's a drum machine being used on this album. I know that in some cases drum machines can be hit or miss when it comes to brutal death metal, but for this style of album and the way that it's executed, I think it's pretty damn cool. I mean, just the way everything is programmed seems to fit perfectly. I mean, just the way the double bass happens to be programmed, to the way the snare tone is, to the way the cymbals are played. I mean, it's a very articulate type of drum programming going on here. And of course, you get some pretty fast and crazy moments going on here too, and it's pretty unique and interesting. More often than anything, you're going to get a pretty good paced kind of drum programming. And another thing to point out is the experimentation aspects of this album. I mean, take the title track. It's basically just a few lines being uttered, and then it's just a mixture of guitar and just unique experimental noise and samples. You'll hear that very much throughout the entire record in some instances, preferably that track, and I want to say maybe towards the closing moments of this album, Skin Probe Decapitated. You get some pretty unique experimental stuff going on. I'm not sure how the listener will feel about that, but honestly, for what kind of lyrical approach this band is doing, I think it's pretty damn unique and creative. And now we get to the vocals. Man, some of the lowest septic tank style gutturals I've heard in quite a long time. I mean, just the way this guy sounds. I mean, this album seems to have a bit of a sci-fi concept going for it. This guy literally does sound like an alien. Just his delivery, how low he can hit his gutturals, it's just disgusting. That's the kind of vocal style you get with this album, and the way he delivers his words, it's just awesome. I mean, there are moments where you do understand exactly what he's saying, and some of the lyrics on this album do tend to range from being sci-fi experimental to just straight up nasty and brutal, and he definitely pulls off those lyrics to a T. But yeah, his vocals are just insane. I can't even believe he hits some of the lows that he hits. It's freaky sounding. And the guest vocals that appear on this album are pretty cool too. You have Martin from Cranium on the track Hyperboreal Vibrations, and I want to say James from Expurgate and Nephrectomy does some vocals on the track Reign of Torture. That's another pretty damn good song to check out. So overall, this is a very, very interesting album. I have to say this is a very interesting record. It won't be to everyone's taste because of the way certain things are. Maybe some people won't really dig the vocals too much. Some people may not really dig the guitar or the way the drum machine is. But I know there are people who will be interested in this particular project. I think it is something very, very unique and interesting. I enjoyed it for one. I find this to be a very entertaining release, and definitely one of the more interesting pieces of brutal death metal to come out in 2013. Definitely check this out if you're into weirdness or experimentation in your brutal death metal. If I had to pick any favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Hyperboreal Vibrations, Shattering the Lives of the Innocent, Reign of Torture, Pungent Stench of Mutating Flesh. That's an amazing track, probably one of my favorites on this record, and Eradicated Existence. So I'm going to leave you a link in the description box to the Gore House Productions web store, where you can buy this album in your physical format. You can also pick up some patches and shirts from the band. I believe the band has a web store as well. I'll link you to that as well if you want to buy it directly from them and help them out. And yeah, I'm optimistic that future material that they're working on is going to be just as crazy as this. I can pretty much guarantee you that it's going to be just as crazy as this for the next go-rounds that they do. So I'm going to... What am I saying? Let me show you the album again. This is Forced Human Sacrifice to the New Gods of Earth by Cuff. This is released on Gore House Productions. Check it out. Excuse my slip-up at the end, and I'm going to give this a really solid 8 out of 10. Very unique and interesting stuff. Support Cuff. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks all for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel, and until the next time, Army Hell out.